Hello and welcome to Byjus Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article says the challenges of fiberization ahead of India's 5G deployment. Let us try and understand what is this article all about. First up, let's look into the context. India is preparing to auction off about 72 gigahertz of airways to roll out 5G services in the country. If we have to roll out 5G services in the country, what we require is the radio towers. These radio towers will have to be connected by the optical fibers. So what we require is the required infrastructure. But this infrastructure to support the 5G services through the fiberization is not enough, is what is this article all about. Before we dig deeper into it, let's understand some of the basics with respect to the internet penetration in the country. When we speak about internet penetration, we have to understand some technical terms. What are those? One, we have to understand the meaning of broadband. What is the broadband? Broadband basically refers to high-speed internet access. It is a wide bandwidth transmission that can also transmit multiple signals and data over a high-speed internet connection. So when the speed of the internet that is provided to the people is comparatively more than what is provided by the dial-up is called as the broadband. When we speak about broadband, it connects to the internet through the various modes, which includes cables, DSL, fiber and the satellite. And when it comes to the dial-up, which was previously present, it connects to the internet through a modem and a dedicated telephone line. When we speak about broadband, it does not require any access number to be dialed, but when it comes to the dial-up, it uses an access number to connect to the internet. When it comes to the broadband, it provides internet access without keeping the phone lines busy. But when it comes to dial-up, voice and internet services cannot be used simultaneously. When it comes to the broadband, the IP address assigned to your computer is same throughout, but when it comes to the dial-up, a new IP address is assigned to your computer every time the modem dials the access number. These are the differences between the broadband as well as the dial-up. When we speak about broadband, it can further be categorized: wired internet, satellite internet, cellular internet and wireless internet. What is this wired internet? This is also called as residential broadband. It connects to the internet by using a physical cable. This includes telephone line, cable line or fiber optic line. Then we have the satellite internet, which is also called a satellite broadband, connects to a satellite dish on the roof. And then we have the cellular internet, which is also called as mobile internet, connects to the internet via the cellular networks. This basically includes mobile broadband service, mobile hotspot, tethering, so on and so forth. Then finally, what we have is the wireless internet. The wireless internet is also called as wireless broadband. It connects to the internet through a wireless router, and this is what is example of Wi-Fi. So if we speak about how broadband is given, it is further categorized into three types, where we make use of the fiber optic, we make use of the cable and we make use of the digital subscriber line. What do we mean by fiber optics? So when we speak about fiber broadband, this happens to be a fiber internet where the internet connection is powered by the fiber optics instead of the more traditional methods like the cable or the DSL. So instead of making use of the cable or the DSL, what we are making use of is called as the fiber optics. So what are fiber optics? These are nothing but they transmit light instead of electricity. So these cables can carry data over long distances, including the oceans, and still offer seamless connectivity with high speeds. This is possible because of the optical fibers, which are slim tubes that use a physical phenomena called as total internal reflection to their advantage. So if we have to speak about differences between the fiber optic cable and DSL, fiber optic delivers internet via the fiber optic cable. It is the fastest method of delivering high-speed internet to the residents and businesses, and the average speed is about 50 to 100 Mbps, and the higher end can go up to 1 to 10 gigabits per second. Now, if we speak about the cable, delivers internet via copper coaxial television cable, may be your best bet for a fast and reliable internet connection, and it may go up to 4 Mbps to 6 Mbps, and the high end is about 10 to 100 plus Mbps. When we speak about digital subscriber line, delivers internet via copper phone lines, a last mile service that allows consumers to access the internet by using the existing telephone lines. It can start from 768 kbps, it can go up to 1.5 mbps, and the higher end will go up to 3 mbps and 7 mbps. So if we have to speak about the advantages of the fiber optic, then it is highly scalable, it is resistant to the electrical interferences, and there is almost greater speed. These are the advantages of the fiber optics. What are the disadvantages? If we have to install them at the start, it will be a costly affair. So initial installation will be very costly, and at the same time they are more fragile than the coaxial cables. Why are we discussing all this? That is because of the concept of fiberization. So the process of connecting radio towers with each other, making use of the optical fiber cables, is what is called as fiberization. For us to ensure that 5G connectivity is provided to people all over, what we have to make use of is the fiber optical cables. These fiber optical cables will be helping in linking one radio tower to the other, so that there is faster transmission of data, which is why we discussed about the fiber optic cables. But what are the challenges when it comes to the execution? We did discuss one, it's a costly affair, and it is also fragile than the coaxial cable. But then the fiberization in India also has multiple other issues. So if 5G services has to be rolled out, what are the impediments, what are the obstacles? We will try and understand. So the first major concern is with respect to that as of now, when you consider India, the number of areas where this fiberization, that is optical fiber cables, have been laid is comparatively less. To transition into 5G, India needs at least 16 times more fiber. So the existing capacity is not enough, says this article. In India, currently only 33% of the towers are fiberized, compared to 65 to 70% in South Korea and 80% in United States, Japan and China. According to a 2021 report by India Infrastructure Report, the fiber kilometer per capita in India is lower than other key markets. Ideally, a country needs about 1.3 kilometer of fiber per capita to ensure good fiberization. However, India's FKM is just 0.09 compared to 1.35 in Japan, 1.34 in United States, 1.3 in China, the report has noted. To reach the targeted level of fiberization, India requires about 2.2 lakh crore of investment to help fiberize 70% of the tower. So as of now, we do not have enough strength, we haven't fiberized, and as a result, 5G services, even if it is rolled out, many people may not be able to get the required service, is the first major challenge. The second major challenge is with respect to right of the way rules. We have the government of India, which has taken multiple initiatives. Let's say for example, we have the BharatNet, and the government of India is also focusing on smart cities as well. All this will give impetus to the fiberization. However, what we currently have issues is that we have not expanded on the one side, on the other side we also have right of the way issues. What is this right of the way rules? When we speak about right of the way rules, we have the telecom regulatory, which gives the guidelines to the telecom companies to lay its own infrastructure. Let's say for example, we have telecom companies, let's say we have Jio, or let's say for example, we also have Airtel as well. These are the guidelines which are given to these companies, where they would be able to put out their infrastructure. For example, it can be the towers, or it can be the optical fiber cables, or a designated rules where these towers and the cables will have to go through. So right of the way basically means these are the regulations, these are the guidelines given by the telecom authority to the telecom companies, so that they would be able to put out their infrastructure. The infrastructure can be the towers, it can be the optical fiber cables, and in which way, in which particular way this has to be laid is what is this right of the way rules. The rules were basically created to facilitate, establish and maintain the underground as well as the overground telegraph infrastructure. These rules also provides the grievance addressal in a time bound manner as well. So this is the rules that is given by the telecom authority to all these telecom companies so that they would be able to lay the infrastructure, and in case they have any grievance, they have any issues, the same will be addressed within a time bound manner so that all their grievances are addressed by the government of India. So what is the issue with respect to the right of way rules? While all states and union territories are required to implement these rules, they are not in complete alignment and still require certain amendments to align. So the government of India came up with the 2016 rules. According to these rules, whatever the government of India has come up with, it has given a framework. So with this particular framework, the states should come up with their own set of rules. But then the framework and what the states have come up is not meeting, and at the same time there are discrepancies within the local bodies as well as the state governments themselves as well. The state governments may give this particular order that you can go ahead with laying of the cable, so on and so forth, but the local authorities, the municipal authorities have their own set of rules, which ultimately means there is conflict between the rules and ultimately they are not able to lay the cables or other infrastructure. Several district and local bodies have not agreed to the ROW policies as notified in those respective states. These places are following their own bylaws, overriding the state ROW policies aligned with the ROW rules of 2016. So what we have is a conflict, and as a result, these telecom companies are not able to put out their telecom infrastructure. Apart from this, other central ministries like the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, National Highway Authority of India, Ministry of Environment and Forests, Ministry of Railways, Ministry of Defence, Ministry of Civil Aviation, Department of Post have not yet adopted these rules, citing their own departmental rules. So this basically means we have the central government which has given a framework of rules, then you have the state governments whose rules are in conflict with the central government. Apart from that, there are rules which are given by the state government. This is also in conflict with the local rules, and this means there is a lot of red tape, and these people, the companies, are not able to lay out their infrastructure, says this article. Added to it, the article also goes on to say that if we cannot have this fiberized model of internet penetration, can satellite communication help in 5G deployment and improve the network backhaul? This article says yes, to a minimal level. So satellite communication can facilitate 5G broadband connectivity to underserved areas where it is not feasible to deploy terrestrial infrastructure like remote villages, islands or the mountainous regions. In all those cases where these fiber optics cannot grow, we can make use of the satellite communication. Satellite based networks are the only means for delivering 5G broadband to users on board moving vessels including cars, ships, airplanes and high-speed trains. Space-based backhaul will provide disaster relief services, support emergency response teams as well as deliver broadband connectivity for one-off entertainment or sports events anywhere in the world. The low Earth orbit satellites will be well suited to offer not only backhaul but also direct connectivity, says this article. As the 5G standard is adopted, new markets will open up for the satellite operators, including Internet of Things, private 5G, cellular backhaul for densification to enable more cell sites as well as the edge devices. So this article currently goes on to say in all those areas where we are not able to fiberize, where the optical fibers cannot reach, we can make use of the satellite communication as an addition to the existing internet connectivity. So the need of the hour is to make sure that we fiberize as much as possible, so all the impediments and obstacles that are existing has to be eliminated by the government so that this 5G services, once it is rolled out, many people would be able to take the advantages of the 5G, says this article. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says weighing in on India's investment-led revival. The article here is speaking about recent wording spoken by the finance minister. The finance minister recently said that India's long-term growth prospects are embedded in public capital expenditure programs. She also added that an increase in public investment would crowd in the private investments. It is speaking about two parts. One, it is speaking about crowding in. What do we mean by it? It means that whenever the government is investing a lot of money on the infrastructure front, what you will have is the active participation by the private people. What do you call as crowding out? Whenever the government is investing too much where there is no role for the private to play, the private entities step out of it. So they are not actively participating in it, which is called as crowding out. And crowding in basically means that you have the active participation of the private entrepreneurs, private investors, as well as the private industries. The article here emphasizes on the concept of public capital expenditure. What do we understand by capital expenditure? Capital expenditure is basically nothing but the amount of money that the government is spending on the infrastructure. So if we are speaking about the infrastructure, let's categorize them into economic infrastructure as well as the social infrastructure. What is this economic infrastructure? Let's say, for example, the government is investing huge amount of money for the development of airports. It is also constructing new roads as well, highways, railways, water and sewage systems, public electric and gas utilities. These are the ones which fall under the economic infrastructure. So development of roads, railways, airports, so on and so forth is called as the economic infrastructure. The government can further make investments in the social infrastructure, which is to do with education. So thereby they develop universities as well as schools, and at the same time they can also establish hospitals as well. So when the government is investing on the capital expenditure front, this will obviously mean that over a period of time and on a longer term as well, this is going to give us returns, says this article. So basically, whenever the government is ensuring that more capital expenditure is made, public capital expenditure is invested, in all those cases what we will have is creation of the assets for the country. And whenever there is creation of the assets, this will allow the economy to roll up. It means the economy activity will also increase over a period of time. This also means the overall operational efficiency for the country and for the industries will also increase. Added to it, whenever we are giving boost to the infrastructure, what we have is the participation of the labor. So more employment opportunities will be provided as well, and at the end point what we will have is boost to the overall economics of the country. So whenever the government is making a capital infrastructure, it will ultimately mean that we would be able to generate profits in the near future. What is the difference between capital expenditure and revenue expenditure? Whenever we are speaking about capital expenditure, what we are creating is assets for the future. We are constructing roads, we are constructing railways. So these are the assets, and the government is also acquiring land as well, and in the near future it will generate profits and dividends. But when it comes to revenue expenditure, this is nothing but salaries of the employees, interest payment on the past debt as well, subsidies that the government provides, pension that the governments will have to give. All this fall under the revenue expenditure, and it is recurring in nature. So basically, if we are speaking about capital expenditure, it will generate some profits, but with revenue expenditure there is no profits, dividend whatsoever. But to ensure that its daily activities are conducted, the government spends, which is called as the revenue expenditure. So this article currently goes on to say that whenever we have had problems in the economy in the past, what has the government resorted to? It has resorted to improvising on the capital expenditure front. Let's go back to the year 1997, where we had the Asian financial crisis. And during this particular crisis, what we had was the macroeconomic picture was not that good. In order to overcome this particular issue, the government had to invest a lot of money into the market. So what does the government do? The Atal Bihari Vajpayee led National Democratic Alliance government initiated public road building projects. So it started investing on the roads, which is nothing but the capital expenditure. So in the form of golden quadrilateral to link metro cities using a high quality road network. Then we have the Pradhana Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana to provide good all-weather road connectivity to unconnected habitations. These initiatives showed the siege of economic revival, culminating in an investment and export-led boom in the 2000s. GDP also grew at 8 to 9% annually. So the author goes on to say that whenever India has faced a problem, what we required was the capital expenditure that was supposed to have been made by the government. But this idea of only investing on the capital expenditure front in terms of the road, in terms of the railways, in terms of other social infrastructure is not the only thing that the government has to focus on. It has to focus on other areas as well, says this article. So the other areas that the government should focus is on the agriculture front, is also on the manufacturing front, and when it comes to the services front, we have already made a huge amount of investments. The human capital is also generating a lot of profits for us as well. So the government, instead of focusing only on the capital expenditure, it should also focus on agriculture and the manufacturing sector, says the author. The author takes into picture some of the examples. Between 2014 and 15 and 2019 and 20, the shares of agriculture and industry in fixed capital formation or the GDP fell from 7.7% and 33.7% to about 6.4% to 32.5% respectively. During the same period, service share rose to 52.3% in 2019-20 compared to 49% in 2014 and 15. The rise in the service sector is almost entirely on the transport and the communications. The share of the transport has doubled from 6.1% to 12.9% during the same period. Within the transportation, it is mostly the roads. Yes, the service sector has increased, but what has gone down? It is the manufacturing sector and the agriculture sector. So whenever we are investing too much on one particular area, it will be a lopsided growth, says this article. So if we have to manage the domestic output growth, what we require is a balance between direct productive investments, that is in terms of the farming as well as the industrial sector, which is the farms as well as the factories, and there has to be a balance between infrastructure investments. So a balance has to be made where on one side the government is investing on the farming as well as the industries, on the other side we are also balancing it with infrastructure investments. But as of now, it is lopsided where the government has focused completely on the infrastructure development but has not invested much on the farms as well as the factory sector. So this article currently goes on to say that because of it, the case of manufacturing is distressing. Its share in the investment ratio fell from 19.2% in 2011-12 to about 16.5% in 2019 and 20. And as a result, we are suffering. We are not able to export much to the outside world. And even if we have to get some of the basic products in India, we are importing multiple other products which are acting as inputs from some other country. So because we are not able to develop the manufacturing sector, some of the active pharmaceuticals had to be imported from China, multiple other parts had to be imported from China, mobile phones have to be imported from United States, or any other phones or the laptops have to be imported from multiple other countries. Had our manufacturing been updated, had the government had infused more money into the manufacturing sector, had the government introduced more policy reforms when it comes to the manufacturing sector, we need not had to import from multiple other countries, says the author. The government also came up with multiple initiatives like the Make in India initiative, but that did not fructify, and this has become a policy disaster, says the author. Instead of boosting investment and domestic technological capabilities, the Make in India campaign frittered away time and resources to raise India's rank in the World Bank's questionable and contested ease of doing business index. India's position did go up from 142 in 2014 to 63 in 2019, but it failed to boost industrial investment, let alone foreign investment, says this article. And as a result, what we are witnessing is we are making a lot of imports from other country, and we did discuss recently on our CNA as well that India is facing a large scale inflation, and at the same time our currency has also depreciated as well. And whenever our currency depreciates, it means the imports gets costlier. So during this period where we are also making a lot of imports, we have our currency which is depreciating. We don't know how the government would manage the imports as well as the depreciating rupee. So this article currently goes on to say that this will test India's ability to withstand external economic challenges. One, because of inflation; second, because of geopolitical tensions; third, because of the currency depreciation. So all in all, it is not just about investing on the infrastructure front, capital expenditure, but we also have to focus on the manufacturing and the agriculture, says this article. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says adding digital layers of indignity. We have one of the important articles of the Indian Constitution, which is Article 21. Article 21 speaks about right to life with dignity as well. We also have an aspect of Article 21, which is nothing but economic justice. Economic justice is derived right under Article 21. But if people are not able to have economic justice, they are not able to make money, if they are not able to eat the food, this means that Article 21 is getting violated because they are not able to live with dignity. So this article currently goes on to say that the government has come up with number of technological innovations. These technological innovations that the government has come up with ultimately wanted to remove the ghost accounts and also wanted to filter out those who actually deserved and who did not deserve. So the initiative as a whole may have been good, but when it comes to the implementation and the intervention, it has not implemented right, and as a result, people who were genuinely able to get money in the past, food security in the past, are now not able to get, and as a result, Article 21, which has an economic justice under it, right to health under it, is getting violated, says this article. Let us try and understand how is the author substantiating it. The author takes into picture the integrated child developmental scheme. This was launched in the year 1975 and happens to be one of the world's largest early childhood care and development program. An important component of this program is supplementary nutrition for children in the 0 to 6 years age group, pregnant women and lactating mothers. This became a legal entitlement when it became part of the National Food Security Act in 2013. According to it, the right holders get home cooked meals or take home rations at the local Anganwadis. In 2021, the Union government launched the Poshan Tracker, a centralized platform to monitor all nutrition initiatives, including the integrated child developmental scheme. So what did the government of India do? The government of India came up with a tracker called as Poshan Tracker, where it will monitor about this particular program. But what is the issue under this Poshan Tracker? People have to get their Aadhaar authenticated with this Poshan Tracker. In case their Aadhaar is not authenticated with this particular tracker, they may not get this particular ration, or they may not get the hot cooked meals as well. And at the same time, initially when this program was drafted, it also said that children should also have their Aadhaar as well. Their Aadhaar should also be authenticated. But we have the Supreme Court of India, which did order that children cannot be denied their rights just because they do not have the Aadhaar. And as a result, what did the government say? The government said that Aadhaar authentication is only for the mothers, and only when it is authenticated, that is when all these benefits would be given to the people. This is where the author goes on to say that this is not working out in multiple states in India. Why? That is because there are issues with the Aadhaar authentication. Sometimes the fingerprint is not being recognized as well. So on one side, Aadhaar authentication is not taking place. The digital services are not provided in the rural areas. We do not have the internet penetration in the rural areas, and at the same time, the authentication, fingerprint authentication in number of places is also not working. And as a result, these people for whom getting the food is a right, they are not getting the right, and this ultimately leads to people not getting their rights fulfilled, says the author. So as per the recent National Family Health Survey, 36% of the children under the age of 5 are stunted, and nearly one third of the children in the age group are underweight. If mothers' fingerprints are not authenticated, they would not be able to get the ration to their houses. If they are not able to get the rations, they would not be able to feed their children, and if their children are not fed, it can result in stunting and undernutrition. So it is indirectly haunting these children, says this article. So it is unclear what impact such a move will have on the psyche of a child whose mother's authentication fails, says the author. So the author goes on to say, tackling grave structural issues with technocratic fixes is like putting band-aid on a person who is suffering from the heart attack. So the first issue is with respect to the integrated child development scheme. The second is with respect to the Manrega workers. What is the issue with the Manrega workers? We have the Manrega workers who go to that particular site. So they do conduct their activity and they finish their work in that site after doing all the physical work that is expected from them. So the minute they finish their physical work, they used to push off from that particular place, taking their salary. But what is happening right now? You have something called as the mates. These are the people who will be supervising that particular place. So what has the government come up with? The government has come up with national mobile monitoring software for all the Manrega workers. What happens according to it? You have the mates who are the supervisors. These supervisors will have to capture that particular place, the site of work area, twice a day. And at the same time, if there are more than 20 people, the authentication also happens on an online portal. So this basically means, according to the earlier scenario, people who used to come to this Manrega site, they performed their work, they took their salaries and pushed off. But now under this new software, they have to capture this particular area. They have to capture this person working in that area every day twice, once in the morning, once in the evening as well. So these people earlier could push off immediately after work, but now they cannot push off. They have to wait in that area for a longer period of time. As a result, they will not be able to fulfill other obligations. There can be old age people in their homes, there can be children in their homes. They used to finish off their work, take care of these people, but now since they have to stay in the morning as well as in the evening, this is hurting their other obligations. As a result, people are not able to get their salaries is the first major concern. The second major concern with respect to this Manrega program is you have something called as the Manrega mates, who are nothing but the supervisors. These supervisors will now require the mobile phones because this is an application. They have to monitor everything on this application, but they do not have the smartphones, since most of the women who were capable enough previously were women, but now these women do not have the mobile phones. Because they do not have the mobile phones, the supervisors now are the male as well. So on one side, it is hitting the women. They are not able to become the supervisors because they do not have the smartphones, and ultimately you will have more men who will become the supervisors, is another major concern according to Manrega issue. So we have issues on the ICTZ, and at the same time we also have the issues with the Manrega workers, says this article. So both these technocratic initiatives point to a digital avatar of panopticon with no evident positives for the right holders. The sense of being constantly watched induces fear among the people as well. This normalizes and exacerbates the power asymmetry between the right holders and the government, as the right holders begin to internalize and accept this form of coercion. Moreover, the right holders will be made to take the blame for the technical reasons blocking their participation as well. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says MC12 over its gains for the developed world. The article here is speaking about 12th Ministerial Conference of the World Trade Organization. We have discussed about this issue in the past as well. The link for the same will be given in the description box, so kindly look into it. Now let's look into the mains practice questions. What do you understand by fiberization? Discuss the challenges associated with it in the light of 5G technology. Next question, prospects of sustaining investment recovery are likely to get harder with a depreciating rupee and rising inflation. Analyze. So please write all your answers on the comment section, peer review, and do give positive feedback to your friends' answers. This is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.